welcome back, Postmortem Radio. I am your host, Oz, joined again, as always, by the blonde in front, Katie, who's twirling her pearls.
What are we talking about today, guys?
I don't know. And we've also got JK.
Hello, hello. And as you can see, I have Pearl before she became, no, actually was like in between her fame. Look at her. She's so happy, so smiling.
She's got a great smile. She does have
a great smile. And
she could have been in Smile.
She could have been. She's like 6 feet tall, I believe. She's really,
Is she really?
Tall.
Is she really?
Oh, yes. Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I was so surprised when I saw a lot of the actors that were opposite her in not in X, but in Pearl, because they all seem to be taller than her. Maybe that's the way that they're shooting her to make her feel like she's a young child, because I mean, she's way older than the character she plays, obviously, but the way they shoot her, it feels like she's shorter than everyone else, and she's very tall, as you can see from that picture right there. Let me put this down.
Nice.
X, Y, Z.
But yeah, as you can guess, we are talking about Pearl tonight. It's the origin story from the previous movie X, the character Pearl. So let's kick this one off. But real quick before that, please be sure to like and subscribe. Show your support for the show. We appreciate every one of you guys. So Katie, what do you think? You want to kick this off? What did you think about Pearl?
So I wrote this down because one, I loved Pearl. I think it's a terrifying Technicolor psychotic Wizard of Oz with a demented Dorothy and all of the characters in between. I think it is a throwback to those grandiose films of the 1940s and 30s with the musical numbers. The score, again, I am loving these horror scores right now, you guys. The score by Tyler Bates and Tim Williams. Chef's kiss, absolutely gorgeous. This is written by Ty West and Mia Goth and directed by Ty West. I would say it's definitely one of his best films regarding directing. I mean, and the practical effects, honestly, and I am not kidding, the practical effects were so jarring to me that I actually looked up on IMDb to make sure that these people were still alive after some of the scenes, because there is a spoiler. There's a scene where someone gets their head chopped off. It looks pretty damn real. I mean, it looks pretty damn real. Like, good for you guys. But the anchor, the tent pole, the demented Dorothy that I mentioned, Mia Goth, this is her film. Yes, she is in the role of Pearl, but she just, is losing it from beginning to end. And she has this, I think, an 8-minute monologue where it is focusing. The camera does not cut away. It is all on her face. It is spectacular. She does that, and then there's an end credit scene. Oh, and let you guys know, not necessarily spoiler, but don't leave if you haven't seen it. There's an end credit scene, and then there's a post credit scene. You need to watch out for it because it's great. But that end credit scene, while the credits are going, she just has this I'm really happy. I'm really happy. And she holds that for 3 minutes. 3 minutes. That is a long, long time. I love the nods to it, subtle or not, to different horror films. Like, there are, and I don't know if they meant to do this. I kind of think they did, but the wallpaper that they have in the movie gave me this Shining vibes to it, because it was just so distinctive and rich that when I'm watching it and I kept going back to it, it's like I can see that being made into a sweater, into socks. It just very gave me those Shining feel that the carpet has in The Shining that's become legendary. I think it has nods to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to Psycho, obviously The Wizard of Oz. I think that's pretty blatant with The Wizard of Oz, but then also maybe a little bit of Hereditary to kind of get into nuance, because there's a couple of scenes. I think there's a long shot that is terrifying, that's close to the end. That is one of the only parts, though, that I think that is kind of a mistake, because there's a character who's trying to get away, and then I just kept thinking, I'm like, where'd her car go? Because why didn't she just get in her car? Oh well, I'll forget it. But yeah, Mia Goth, the direction, the practical effects, and the score are some of my favorites of the year. I think this is a film that I'm so glad I saw it in the theater. I think it's meant to be seen in the theater, just like X. And I love the fact that, spoiler or not, they've kind of put it out with A24. This is the second. The third one should be coming out, I believe, early next year. So I'm glad they filmed all this stuff all together. But yeah, I would definitely say Pearl is going to be in my top 10 horror of the year.
Wow. Nicely done. What do you think, Jay?
Well, I'm going to tell you this.
Jump in.
If you guys watched what we just did for Smile, I'm going to tell you that no, there's not an Academy Award coming. So I'm just going to ruin that right now for everyone who's busy. But what I will say, though, is the monologue in the final act is phenomenal. Mia Goth is a tremendous talent. And when you find an actress or an actor, a performer that matches well with the director, a filmmaker, it's just like watching people dance who know how to dance and can move together. And obviously Ty West and Mia Goth have found the kinship in what they are doing to a very disturbing level. Mia Goth, as you can see in the photo behind me, I had the honor to interview her during the press junket for A Cure to Wellness. But even before that, in The Survivalist, which goes back to 2016, I want to say, because it's a Swedish film. She's a Swedish actress. Was phenomenal. Bare bones indie film, phenomenal. It really was her coming out long before A Cure to Wellness. From there, she parlayed it into what she is. And then she was gone for a while, really not on the radar until X. And I'm going to say this. I really enjoyed it. I loved how beautiful it looked. I think it was stretched a little bit at times. The fact that Ty West edited his own film, why Ty West is, in my opinion, there's very little he can do wrong. I'm not a real big fan of The Sacrament. I'm sorry. But majority of the films that he has done, I always enjoy watching a Ty West film. This film was head and shoulders better than X. Head and shoulders better. And why? Because I really think that not only with A24 giving him probably most of the creative control, because this most likely was a side passion project that he was able to put together and was not considered to be the main release, X was, I really feel that he had the creative control to cultivate this the way he wanted to cultivate this. And it's meant, with everything Katie said, it's so many nods to classic Hollywood. The idea of Technicolor, the idea of a very much a fantasy film, with a very maddening tone. I think Psycho is definitely something that should be brought up as well when it comes to it. Psycho, you see it in her face, the build up, it's paced really well. The cinematographer, Elliot Rockwell, I think that's his last name. He's worked with Ty West on just about every film he's ever done, which you love that unspoken bond and connection, that language that they have to be able to capture it. But it's a really great period piece. And that's something people have to realize when they go to see Pearl if they haven't seen it already. So spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. But this is a period piece that really at first is a little bit confusing. It's a little confusing because you don't know why she's here, but she was in X. So what's going on there? As the film goes on, you realize what's going on and what the origin story is, which I really come to love. And I got to tell you, folks, and Katie, I did not stay for the post credit scene in the Ty West cinematic universe, which sooner or later he's going to direct the film for Marvel. Mark my words, he's going to direct them for Marvel. Yeah, I know. People are like, oh, no, he'll never do. Yes, he will. Eventually, he will. All the horror filmmakers will be doing that eventually. I'm sorry. But I love how, at the end of the film, how it all ties together and really sets up what X does with that couple. I think it is fantastic. And I would love a film in the in-between time between the two films. I don't need to see Mia Goth's character from X go to Hollywood now. I need to see in between because I want to see how their relationship formed and they became that couple that we see in X. That's what I want to see. But overall, beautiful film. I don't know if it's in my top 10 for the year, but it's definitely one of the better films of the year.
Yeah, I would agree. I really did enjoy it, majority of the film. The one thing I will mention is my one complaint that I had about it is that it did seem to drag the first probably half of that movie. I know it's an origin story. I know that's setting up a lot of backstory for her character and things like that. But it felt like it was just took forever to really get going. Once she kills the dude, then it was like from then on, I was
Spoiler.
like, that's what. Hey,
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
we always have spoiler on every one of our. So if you haven't seen it, shame on you. But if you look at it, and on every one of our videos says spoiler review. So you can't blame us if you didn't read it. But once she kills it, that to me, that's when it started. I mean, from then on, I mean, it was gold. I mean, it was good. I enjoyed every bit of it. It was getting to that point. I think it could have been a good 20 minutes, probably at least could have been cut out of some of that. But as you both said, Mia Goth, such a wonderful talent. I mean, she has that look and the talent that, you can look at her at one point and see the all-American wholesome girl, but then another time you look at her and you're like, this bitch is freaking crazy. Sorry to be using that word again, Katie, but and especially when she has that smile. I mean, she has that big smile, and like she's freaking losing it, and she's messing some people up. And but yeah, it definitely has a lot of nods to some classic horror. Texas Chain. It always, both X and Pearl to me, always it had that Texas Chainsaw vibe to me. Maybe because it's a kind of a seclusion type of environment. Maybe that's why it kind of feels that way.
In Texas.
Yeah, it's in Texas. It's on a farm, and there's not really anybody else around. So that's probably a good reason. But yeah, for me, this is, if you can get through, without getting too frustrated and be patient with it, it's worth it on the back end. That's what I would tell anybody.
See, I there's a couple things we're saying. One I agree with, one I don't. I think you're right that and I think this goes as one of the things I criticize when it comes to Ty West editing his own film. He's falling in love with a lot of the stuff he's done, and honestly, he doesn't give two shits whether or not we like it or not. He's going to make the movie he wants to make, and that's the bottom line.
Sure.
He's done that.
Well, and that's what filmmakers should do.
Well, no, I don't agree with that at all. No, because if a filmmaker, that's the problem with a lot of sequels. Because you get people who either don't know anything about the genre, like Ronnie, what's the one who did Freddy versus Jason? Ronnie Yu?
Oh,
Ronnie,
yeah.
Who had no idea what either character was, and they hired him to do it. Or you get people, especially in independent cinema, who love their material so much that they feel it needs to be a 2.5 hour movie. I'm sorry, it just doesn't work when it comes to that. And that's, as I've become a filmmaker more, as I've spent the years doing it, the more I've talked to filmmakers that becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why you bring in editors to chop it up. But with A24, I'm sure whatever they have set up, Ty West is going to edit everything because it's his vision and it's always his vision. But what I will say about it is I agree with you that if you can get through it, I think that that is something that is needed in this movie. If you just had her start at crazy, it's not as effective.
Well, no, I didn't mean to have her start there, but that's when I think it just took off. I mean, I agree. It needed some backstory. I just don't think it needed that much. But I mean,
I'm not so sure. We need to see how the family's established. We need to understand her psychosis. They fall on, and correct me if I'm wrong, they fall on the plot device that, there's something wrong with her. There is always something wrong with these characters. We don't need to know it. You need to show us. And that's what I really love is the fact that she starts to show us. And it's not just, oh, okay, it's her doing little things like, she'll kill animals. She takes that pitchfork and something bad's gonna happen. The alligator or crocodile, I'm sorry, I can't tell from the snout, whatever it is. I love the fact that there's a pet gator in the swamp behind her house. I love that because that sets up a whole new thing and gives her an outlet to do terrible things that's more than just based in one location. So I think it's really incredible that they do it. And I'm glad Mia Goth had insight into cultivating this character writing the script, because she probably looked at this and said, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to great fucking time doing this. And she looks like she's having a ball doing this on the screen.
Oh, she did. I mean, the dancing and singing and all that. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was her performance was stellar for sure.
I mean, it's funny because as I was saying, how it reminded me so much of Wizard of Oz. It's like with Dorothy always trying to all she wanted to do was go home. And then you have Pearl, who all she wants to do is just get away from it as far as possible. And I forgot to mention, I really love the fact that since this was made during COVID, so people had to wear masks, the fact that they made sure to do this during the Spanish flu so that people were wearing masks. It's like, Ty West, you are so smart. You are so clever. Thank you for doing that. And it's like, and that fear, and it's like, we're, foreigners and all that stuff. There were so many other not only nods to different films, but so many other messages regarding what's going on right now during the times, that he didn't throw it, shove it in your face, but he did it in such an intelligent and thoughtful way. It's like, dude, you're so good. I mean, he's funny. I actually have seen him a couple times at the Music Box and in Chicago, and actually went up to him one time where he's like, how do you know who I am? And I'm like, because I know who you are. Let's take a picture. And he was there seeing a movie and supporting a friend. And I just went up to him and I'm like, hey, what are you doing here? He's like, do you know who I am? I'm like, yeah, I know who you are. That's why I went up to you.
Well, I will say this, and Katie, I love the fact of how down to earth he is, because he's a great guy and he's a lot of fun. And obviously, you're right, he's brilliant in a lot of what he's done with the film. And I'm going to go back to what for those who watched the review of Smile, one of the things that wasn't brought up was the fact, what wasn't really brought up was the fact of isolation. And I think in Smile, it's really kind of forced. You are put in a situation and everything is pulled away from her. I thought it was the wrong thing to do because it took all away her emotional support and just made her more of a victim than an empowered character. Even at the end, she's a victim and whatever happens to her. I'm not going to say spoiler alert, okay? But in Pearl, I love, and even X, I love how Ty West takes isolation and doesn't do the same thing. In X, the isolation is not only the house, but the isolation is the fact they're making adult films. The fact that it's an art form that they are tapping into. It's the fact that these people are so separated from what their reality is versus what they're trying to create is incredible. And I think that's one of the strengths of X, what the characters do and how they're able to come in from the walks of life. And even at the end, or in X, my apologies, Jenna Ortega's character, whatever her name was, when she finally, I guess, assimilates to what they're doing and she no longer is isolated from the group, I absolutely love that.
Very much, but
Okay, I have no idea what that was from. Nonetheless, in Pearl, I love the fact of how isolated and how the isolation changes because she's in a world of her own,
Yeah.
but she's around. It's not her who's isolated, it's her family, her mother that's isolated because it's not only is it brilliant that it's the Spanish flu, not as only brilliant with the time period this is happening, it's happening around right after World War One. So this is when Germany is decimated and they've come to this isolated area. They're basically not saying really who they are or what they're doing. They're trying to live off the land. They're trying to stay off the grid for what's happened to the father, but more importantly, because they're German. So isolationness in a max way, it's so smart in how Ty West, and there's more examples between the two films, but those are some of the primary ones that makes the film not only a little bit frightening, but also a little bit exhilarating, but also a little bit connecting. Because we all have moments in our lives where we feel excluded or isolated from the people around us. And in Smile, it's kind of forced. In Pearl, especially, it's not. It feels almost natural, and that's driven by the performances of Mia Goth and whoever plays the mother. My apologies, not knowing her name. Those two characters right there they work so well off each other. It reminds me of Carrie with Sissy Spacek and the mother,
Piper Laurie.
Piper Laurie, the way they go back and forth at each other. It reminds me very much of that. And it's just brilliant the way that Ty West brings the isolated feeling through this film and develops it and cultivates it.
Yeah, I feel like Pearl also has kind of that Cinderella vibe to it, where it's like, even though her mother is actually her mother, it's like you've got this Cinderella vibe talking with the animals who are her friends. It's like, I'm going to do this. And it's like, look at you. Hey, Mr. Cow, what's going on? And then you've got the stepmother. It's like, and then you've got the mom who it seems like the stepmother. It's like, stop messing around. It's like, you can't go to this. You can't go to that. No one's going to want you. And but it's also the mom's going through her own thing, like as a German immigrant coming to the world with the war going on. It's like, she's been here longer than the war, but it's like, people won't look at her like that. They'll just see her as a German. It's like, well, we're fighting you, so we're automatically going to hate you. And then also everything that's happened to her husband. And she's like, do you think I want in my world like this? I was supposed to be his wife, not his mother, not his caretaker. This isn't how my life was supposed to be. And it's like, Pearl wants to get out and have her own life. It's like, I feel bad for the mom. She's like, yeah, and I want my life too, but it's like, I can't. This is what I signed up for. This is what life is. This is what marriage is. It's like, this is what you have to do. So it's like, yeah, Pearl just becomes just more and more demented.
And I believe it's Tandy Wright. I'm looking it up now on IMDb. Tandy Wright. She is, I mean, such strong performances. Again, not going to win Oscars, but the simple fact is that it is driven by these incredible performances from these incredible performers. And I think that's one of the key things, Katie, is the fact that the father is basically, because of the Spanish flu, is paralyzed in a chair. Spoiler alert. And what he goes through and the way that he's able to emote and build his character without saying a word, and just the way that he works off the performers around him, it's heartbreaking. But at the same time, when she reaches that breaking point and he's sitting there, oh my God, the terror on his face, because he realizes that it's been unleashed. You can't, there's no way back now after everything. And by the way, hats off to Tom Hammock, who's the production designer for this. Not only is the house perfect, and I'm glad you brought up the aspect of the wallpaper and the design. You're right about that, but it fits so well for the vision that Ty West had for that Wizard of Oz feel. But more terrifying is the way it feels when her world turns inside out, almost like going down the rabbit hole, like Alice in Wonderland. It's just terrifying. That table scene with the food. Oh my God, the pig outside. I mean, who is the maggot handler on this production? You did.
Oh, I know.
It's wonderful.
Just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Oz. I think we should have that as the mascot for the show.
The maggoted pig.
Yes, of course. You know. Of
Okay,
course.
what do we name it?
Oh, that's a great question.
Maggie?
Piggy X. I don't know.
Wilbur,
Well, oh, but he is special.
he
He
is
is
special.
wonderful. He is dinner.
Oh,
Bacon?
what if we name the pig Opal because the movie's name is Pearl?
Oh,
Oh my God. Wow. Oh wow. That's like wow. That's like Pearl using the axe behind you, Oz. That was painful.
wow. Now what we're gonna have to do is, for listeners, we're gonna have to get a little stuffed animal pig and with a little postmortem shirt on it or something.
Oh my God.
Or name it Ruby. All I can think of is like different diamond. I mean, let's think of stripper names because it's like here's Ruby, here's Diamond,
Here's Sapphire.
here's Sapphire,
Well,
here's
I thought you were saying Ruby because you had compared this to Wizard of Oz and the ruby slippers.
Oh,
see, I didn't even
I
think
thought-
that.
I
Yeah.
thought that's where you were going with it.
See, there you go. Maybe subconsciously I was, and I didn't even put it together. There you go. The pig's name is Ruby. That makes
Ruby.
sense.
one thing I will say that's not horror based. I love the guy. I'm guessing it's David Cornslet, the projectionist.
Yes.
I absolutely love the scene where she comes to him and they watch the film in the projection booth in the theater. And that's one thing, this may be a nod to what Larry Fessenden has done for decades now with Glasseye Picks, but the pure love of film and what that means to Ty West, you see that it's more than horror. This is more than just a horror film. You know what it is. You have from the trailer, you have every idea of what it is, but there's these really sweet moments that are punctuated in between all the terrible things. And that's one of the best moments of this film is when they're in there and she's discovering film and he's talking about, and then all of a sudden he shows her the nudie pictures. And it's so, because it at the time, again, I brought up about the aspect of them doing porn in X. This is that same thing, just 6-7 decades earlier than what this film is, maybe 6 decades earlier than what this film is. So, I mean, it's a great nod to it. It ties things up, but it's just a wonderful thing. It reminds me of European cinema. It reminds me of those kind of things. So I just want to give credit. That's beautiful, a beautiful section.
Well, and with him, I always considered him like he's the wizard. It's like, oh, look at this. We'll take you away. I can see you on screen. I'm like, damn, have I just been seduced by the wizard all my life? And that's what, it's like, don't look behind the curtain, all that. And I'm like, okay. I see what you guys are doing. Creepy.
Don't look behind the curtain because the wizard's going to want to jump in his car and try and get away after he sees what kind of fucked up. And that's why I wear Audition tonight, because there is that vibe, even a little bit, of a woman being wrong and what she does. I mean, it's not slow and methodical with no, it's forceful, it's scary. It almost feels like a Jason Voorhees, because no matter how far you run away, no matter how much you run, she's gonna get you. It doesn't matter. It does not matter.
Yeah, and that scene where she's going after what's her friend that got the part,
blonde?
Mitzi?
Yes, the blonde.
Glinda?
Yeah, that
the
was
Glinda version.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
That did have a sort of a Jason sort of vibe to it, because although while you can see her face and everything, but I mean you could just see that, I mean, that she was not getting away from her. Right. There was just, and that's the other the thing that you don't get to see in the Jason, but you got to see in the Mia Goth's character and Pearl was, I mean, you could just see that determination. I mean, she was like the Terminator. I mean, she had the crosshair, she had the target, and she was going after and she was going to get her, and that was all that there was to it. I mean, the determination was, I mean, she was moving towards her with a purpose. It was very cold also. It was just a very cold,
no one's gonna stop her, man. No one's gonna stop her.
Right.
She's a star. But one of the things that's really scary, and I don't know if this is the way it's shot, or if this is just how strong she is, or if the weapons are, because this is stuff we're not seeing. This is stuff that's native to a farm and that time period. When she goes ahead and she slings that axe or takes that pitchfork down, I mean, there's a ferocity to that. I mean, it's like, I mean, a farmer's strength is a farmer's strength, but man, there's some scenes where it's just like, wow, that's really terrifying to see how well I don't know how many takes, but how well she's able to handle those weapons and make it feel that authentic, even if it's not real, it feels real.
Well, and there is something too. I think I've heard it called country strong.
Yeah.
From people who have worked on, worked in farms and things like that. Like they may not look like bodybuilders and all that kind of stuff, but they're country strong. I mean, I can't remember what show I was watching, but I think it may have been like American Ninja or whatever, Ninja Warrior or something like that. And these guys that do these work the land and take care of these animals and stuff, they're throwing bales of hay around and all this kind of stuff, and they're just freaking badasses. I mean, they may not look it, but they're freaking strong. So if she is working that land and she's working that farm, then by all means, that is, like you said, it's very believable that she could wield that axe and wield the pitchfork and whatever and do some real damage like she did in the film. I was
waiting for her to like grab a head and like squeeze it and pop it.
That might be going a little hard, but
just going to that Friday the 13th part 3. It's like,
listen, okay,
pop it like a grape.
Pop it like a grape. Or what is it? What film is it where she throws the basketball and explodes the woman's head against the wall?
Oh, Deadly Friend.
Yes. Throws the pig, explodes it against the woman's head. That'd be great.
Christy Swanson,
yes.
One of probably in the history of Wes Craven films, I think that's probably close to the bottom for me with Deadly Friend with that. But that scene I will never forget.
It's a what is it? A meme? I think that's what they call them. It's a meme for so many people now when it comes to horror kills. But you gotta give it to Mia Goth. I mean, the passion she has for this character and the dedication, it comes through. It's just fantastic. And the casting is great. To be able to do this as a side project, it doesn't hurt that A24 is behind you doing this. I mean, I don't know if this is the same film if A24 is not behind it, but Ty West is great no matter what. So no matter what, it would have had some similarities if it wasn't.
Indeed. So, I mean, like I said, I would still recommend it. It's still a thumbs up for me, even though it takes a little bit of investment to get through that first, all the backstory and everything. But I think it pays off in the end. So I definitely give it a recommendation as well. So I think all three of us are in agreement on that one as well.
Two axes up.
Yeah, it had me at the score and then just the title, like Pearl, A24, Ty West, Mia Goth. It's like you hear the violins and like this orchestra playing, and it's like, oh yeah, I'm loving where this is going already.
And again, folks who are out there and think that horror is all about practical effects and gore, yes, it does have its roots in it, but I'll tell you something. You want to get in with great studios like that, hell, you want to just make a great film, write great characters, and having your lead actress collaborate with you on it, it doesn't hurt whatsoever. And I'm very curious, and this is the question I would ask Mia, is where's the influence and inspiration in the darker half of Pearl? Where is that? Because is it something more modern, or is it something that's a lot closer and we don't realize? Because there is definitely something that's fueling her. It might be a performance, but man, every performance is fueled by some sort of inspiration. And this is a really great performance. So hats off, and just a great film overall. A lot of fun. Not as much fun as Smile. This is more of a movie rather than a film. You know, I think that's the distinction we have to look at here. Pearl is a movie. Smile is a film. It's a craftsmanship. It's a lot of different things, in my opinion. But this is a really beautiful movie and another well done film by Ty West.
I agree what you were saying with the I'd love to know, especially with the monologue that she has, and
yes.
you know, scene that just doesn't, like, how much of that she wrote for that monologue, because it gets into very specific heavy moments, and I mean the tears are just flying. So it just I would be curious, like, what was the inspiration for a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, she's just absolutely fantastic in this. I can't wait to see Maxine, you know, Triple X Maxine. I loved X. I think X definitely is in my top 10 for the year, if not top 5 or 3. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the end of the trifecta is going to be.
One thing I will throw, Katie, in there that you brought up with the monologue, I would love to ask Ty West why, in his eye, with that scene, you know, when did he decide to go back to Mitzi to get reaction or any sort of anything to what the monologue was that Pearl was doing? Because I mean, it's primarily on her, you know, and it's not like in Smile where it's like right face to face. There's some room there to see the world around her. But I would love to know what his thinking was with that and why it's so effective, because it's really effective and one of the best scenes of the entire film.
See, to me, when they go back to Mitzi after she does that like heart-wrenching monologue,
right,
it's got that misery effect to it with James Caan. I also got that misery effect with, I mean, anyone who just does like a straight stare after someone does something crazy, it always makes me think of Misery. But one of the things with the Mitzi thing, it was almost, you have so much emotions going on with Pearl's monologue and everything that she's letting out and all the mistakes that she's made and the mistakes that's happened and things that have happened that she's glad that have happened. And then it's like, she's just fine, like, you know, I'm fine. And then you get to Mitzi, right. It's like, holy shit, she's been sitting there 8 minutes just listening to that. And I felt like that was a little bit of like comic relief and like to break the tension, because it's like, oh girl, yeah, you're gonna die, you know you are. Like, you've just been sitting there straight for 8 minutes thinking like, how do I get out of the situation? This is the woman my brother married.
Exactly.
And that's why that was the only mistake that I saw, because when she leaves finally and she's like going down, it's like, where did her car go? Exactly. She drove there and I'm like, she wouldn't have parked down the street. So I was like, where'd her car go? But it's like, you need that, you know, that long shot, because it's like as soon as she leaves out the door down, right, like just keeps going. And then immediately that, yeah, spoiler, that axe to the head and the spray, which I'm like, kudos, you guys had that all. And then the trail while she's just still trying to get away. It's like, Mitzi girl, yeah, you did. And that's not, but yeah, to me, that's why I thought he didn't cut away to Mitzi, because I thought you just needed all of that, like, holy crap. And then just to go to her for that kind of like, break the tension, a little bit of comic relief, not huge, but just like, ha ha ha, like that kind of thing.
Well, one of the things that I agree with you about, especially with the long shot and being, you know, closing the distance, it reminds me of Watchmen and Matthew Good's character. He's the ultimate villain in it, and they're looking at him and they go, well, why did you tell us what? If you had any bearing on my plan, it would not really matter right now. Paraphrasing what it is. And that's the same thing I feel with what Pearl does. She's emptying out her heart and soul, and she knows how she's going to react, and she knows what's going to happen. And Mitzi might not. Mitzi might be running for life, but she knows that I'm going to tell you all this, and it doesn't matter what you're going to do. You're dead. You're standing in my way. You need to go now. And that's what I love about that monologue is so much power. And it builds a foundation under the character Pearl to give us that final empathy, sympathy. I don't know what word you want to use for it, we really feel for her, that sympathy for her, that we really feel for her, and that now we've invested some emotional equity in her. So even if she's going to do terrible things, we still feel for her, because now with the mental illness, whatever you want to call it, it's something that we say, okay, guess what? Maybe she's justified. Oops, did I say that? Oh, but that's what I'm thinking right now.
Because it makes her relatable. Like she's talking about things like, this, it's like, I have dreams. I want this. It's like, I didn't necessarily want this to happen, but this is the way, this is the way it was. It's, and believe me, I'm not trying to say that in the way it's like, well, that's the way it was. People married 13-year-olds back in 1988. No, that's not what we're talking about. No, this is 1918. It's like, no, this is like, you get married basically when you're 17. Many women didn't even read, especially, where they were. So it was lucky that she had somewhat of an education, but you work and then you have enough kids so that when you have a farm like that they will then work on the farm. Right. You don't, and that was her life, but that's, she's born into that and she didn't want to be, and she feels bad for things that happen, but it's, that whole thing, like she's killed at least 3 people, 2 that are related to her in horrific ways. And you can tell she's losing her mind, but it's like this monologue that just tries to, I know it's like, it's not necessarily empathy, but it's just trying to get you. It's like, look, this is my story. Just hear me out. I'm not, she doesn't think she's a bad person, but yet she kind of does. And she knows she did stuff wrong, but she's like she feels bad for what she did, but she can't take it back. And It's like, and it doesn't matter what I say, because I'm going to have to kill you anyway.
I love it. And by the way, hats off to Peter Pope, who is one of the producers on it. He has been with Ty West forever. And I want to give him a happy birthday shout out, because he is not only a great guy, but he's someone who's really been someone who has found some really great gems. And again, working with Ty West doesn't hurt whatsoever, but they are Glass Eye Pictures alum, and hats off to him, because it's another film where he's got a big hand in it with Ty and everyone else. So hats off to Peter, and happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. So yes, Oz. Oh, wait a minute, The Wizard of Oz. Is that
your look at that. See?
Thank you.
Full circle.
Wow. Circle, that's what I should have got that one.
Yeah, there's no place like home.
The Wonderful Wizard of Oz.
There's no place like an axe to the head. Home. There's no place like home.
I just want to get away from home. I just want to get away from home. I just want to get away from home. I just want to get away from home.
She just wanted to be a big star.
Oh, by the way, for those who are interested, and I'm sure it's going to be on the Blu-ray, but I saw it on Instagram, they have her going through the makeup for X.
Yes.
It's really fascinating to see her take on the dual characters when it comes to it. And I'll tell you again, I would love to see a film about the couple in between those 2 films. That I would love to see, because I want to know why he kept her. Now, maybe he loves her and love is blind and crazy and everything else, but why did he have to seduce her? What's that story? I want to know more about that.
Well, and the fact that Harold stays, I kind of, to go along with the whole Wizard of Oz thing, I kind of think of him as a cowardly lion. Because look, her mom and dad are at the table. They are rotting there. Who knows what she fed the sister to the alligator and whatnot. But look, the guy's got to be like, why did it? I don't know. And there was one thing, if I like Pearl as a standalone film, when you try and think of like what Pearl is in X, it's this whole thing, how she like used her beauty to seduce these people and do all these things. And it feels like she still wanted to have that same beauty and be sexual, but you're not, because you're like 80 something years old. So people don't see you like that. And it's like, I always love the fact that it's like, sex and, free love and, anybody can do anything. It's like, whoa, but not you, grandma. No. You can't, you need to put your clothes on. It's like, no, close up shop. You're done. There's nothing like that. And it's the hypocrisy that's like, oh, we're just so free with sex and love until you get to a certain age, because then we don't want you because you're nasty and old and all that stuff. And
Grandma is zany. Okay, leave her alone.
yeah, but it seems like if I think of Pearl with how Pearl is an ex, I feel like there's a misconnect because I'm like, well, so she's the same age as Maxine is in Pearl, but she never was a star. She never had that opportunity and that, to seduce, to be looked at like Maxine is, and that it factor, because in the point when she auditioned, they say she doesn't have the it factor, but it seems like an ex, it's like she's yearning for those days when she had it. So to see Pearl in that way, I was a little confused by that. That's why I just see Pearl as just a standalone film. And for that, I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, when I can try and compare like Pearl to X and how this is, it's like, it kind of loses something for me.
I would agree with that. I think it can be a standalone on its own. Again, having a movie in between and trying to fill the gaps on why it ends up like that is fine. I didn't have as much trouble as you did, Katie, with it, because, again, in the beginning, it's a little bit confusing on why certain things are the way they are. At least it was for me. Maybe if I watched it again, things would smooth out a little bit. But knowing by the end of it, it kind of set my mind at ease. But as a standalone film, it really was a tremendous effort. And again, A24 doesn't hurt to have them working with you. So I won't lie about that. But Ty West, nonetheless, tremendous job. I'm sure he doesn't give a shit about what we're saying whatsoever. So, because he will do whatever he wants, when he wants, how he wants, and God bless him for that. So.
All right. So I think it's another 3 for 3. We all three of us say it's worth a watch. Except my only thing is, I think it's just it was a little bit longer than it needed to be. It was my only real complaint. So
okay.
Well, it's getting kind of late there, Jay. I know you said you
bedtime is way past for me.
Okay. Oh, one thing before we leave, anyone who saw our Beast review, Beast is going to be streaming on Peacock October 7th. Watch it. It should have had a better screening. It was much better than anticipated. I know I absolutely was rooting for it and really liked it. And I'm glad I got you guys. I don't know if you guys were planning on seeing, but you ended up seeing it and we did a great review for it. So check out our review and watch Beast on Peacock. We are not affiliated with Peacock. We are not paid for this advertisement. I kind of wish we were, but
we all wish we were.
Yeah. Yeah. Beast is going to be on Peacock October 7th, and Pearl is still in theaters. So go check it out.
Yes. Pearl is still in theaters and still doing rather well considering its trajectory. So.
And if you signed up for Peacock so that you could watch Halloween Ends, make sure to, before you cancel it, you can watch Beast, as Katie said.
This podcast ends tonight.
All right.
Painful.
Well, that's it for this episode. We'll see you on the next one. Drop a comment. You might get a shout out on the show. We love your freaking faces, and keep tuning in. Hit like and subscribe. Love you guys.
Bye.
All right. Take care.